much news at all about Geis. In fact, the most recent unofficial depth chart that the Redskins released themselves had Geis ranked as a 4th string running back. Could you believe that? Not me. That's just completely a joke, and he is the bona fide starter, so don't read too much into that. And what you know that he's going to get this season is all the first and second down work, which actually makes him quite a safe pick. But if you know anything about Geis, his upside is overall going to be capped because Chris Thompson's on this team, and let's be real, Geis is not really a pass catching back. Chris Thompson, on the other hand, a pass-catching specialist. Does that mean that Geis will get absolutely no receptions? No, that doesn't mean that whatsoever. In fact, I'm actually starting to believe that Geis will get more receptions than people even give him credit for. If you look him up on Twitter and some of the training camp footage, you can see him being used in the passing game, and Alex Smith has hit him in stride a couple of times, and he has looked good. Keep in mind, though, that in clear passing situations, in the hurry-up offense, it'll definitely be Chris Thompson, but if Chris Thompson does go down with injury, Geis's value could legitimately skyrocket. Chris Thompson going down is not an unlikely scenario. You're talking about a guy who has missed 23 of 64 games during his NFL career, so he's not exactly an Iron Man. And if you're wondering about our overall thoughts on Geis, just to summarize it, we do think that he is a good pick coming in at RB17. It does leave a little room for upside. We could definitely see him ending up as a high-end 2 or low-end 1 by the end of the season, but his upside is going to be capped just due to his lack of work in the passing game. Also, keep in mind that you're probably drafting a player that has a little bit more week-to-week volatility, because remember, in PPR leagues, if you have a low receiving floor, you don't have a baseline of stats going week over week that you can really count on. And while by the season end he should have a strong fantasy finish, in games where the Redskins just basically get blown out or he doesn't reach the end zone, you could find yourself having disappointing results in certain weeks throughout the season. Next, we have Ronald Jones. And surprisingly, Ronald Jones has the 3rd highest ADP of all fantasy rookie running backs this year, behind only Saquon Barkley and Darius Geis. He's climbing, and we just really don't understand it. Does he have 3-down potential? Yes. Do the players on his roster scare most fantasy owners from drafting him? No. But if you ask us, we have legitimate concerns not only with his competition out of the backfield, but also concerns with his individual ability and this team's schedule heading into the season. So to talk about his competition, while Peyton Barber and Charles Sims are essentially nobody, they have absolutely no name value and are hardly getting drafted in any leagues, the reality is they are better in 2 areas than Ronald Jones is. Overall, that's going to limit his upside. Peyton Barber, he's likely going to compete for goal line work, and Charles Sims is going to be competing for the passing game. So if you're in any sort of PPR league, you have to be at least mildly concerned with Sims, who they just gave a 1-year contract as sort of a prove-it deal to. And remember, Jones himself is not a strong pass catcher, so even if you don't believe in Charles Sims as a player, it's still hard to make a case for Ronald Jones over him, at least in the passing game. Now, as for the goal line and short yardage work, Barber has about 20 pounds on him, so even though size isn't 100% indicative of who can take over that role, it can certainly play a factor. And Ronald Jones is only 205 pounds, which is definitely on the smaller size for a guy that's 5'11". So if Peyton Barber is getting it done, they'll probably trust the guy who has more experience and has the bigger body. So lastly, that brings us to the extremely tough schedule. They're going to have some tough competition the entire season, and not only that, Jameis Winston is out for the first 3 games. As much as we like to give Winston a hard time for not really being a great quarterback or living up to his draft day price tag as being the first overall quarterback drafted, or first overall player drafted for that matter, Winston is still miles ahead of a washed up Ryan Fitzpatrick. And if this offense sputters, remember, they play the Saints, the Eagles, and the Steelers in the first 3 weeks, it's very likely that Jones could underperform. If you have a rookie running back who is underperforming in the first 3 weeks, there's a chance that this team may reduce his workload by the time that Winston even comes back in week 4. And by week 4, when Winston comes back, that's when the team is likely going to have more scoring opportunities. That's when this offense overall is probably going to be a little bit better. So when we think of Jones, we just see a player who is limited due to his lack of floor in the receiving game, who also has a tough schedule and already has concerns with his overall touchdown upside, and he has a lot more competition for touches than most people like to admit. So it's a pass from us. Where he is going in drafts, which is currently the 4th pick in the 5th round, that's just too high of a price tag for us. But if he does fall into the 6th, 7th round, you do have room to take a shot on what could potentially be a 3-down back down the road. As of this point though, he is climbing. Like I said, he's behind only Saquon and Darius Geis, and for those reasons, we are completely priced out. Moving on, we have Rashad Penny, and I'll just start by saying we absolutely love this pick right now. His ADP has completely gone south, and why? All because this team is blowing up Chris Carson, talking him up and putting him on a pedestal. Guys, you have to remember, Chris Carson was a 7th round pick. Yes, he performed, but they invested a 1st round pick into Rashad Penny. Does that mean that Chris Carson can't end up being the starter if he just simply plays better for an extended period of time? Yeah, Chris Carson could do that, but at the start of the season, it's going to be Penny's job to lose. So everything you're hearing in training camp right now is just smoke, and that smoke has actually dropped Penny from the 5th pick in the 4th round all the way down to the 6th pick in the 5th round. If you're like us, you're just praying that this type of bashing just completely continues, because we know that Penny is more of a risky pick, but at a 5th round value, you aren't paying for any of the risk, not like you were doing before when he was climbing up to the top of the 4th round. And we all know the success rate for hitting on players that are going in the 5th round is already extremely low. So to be able to target a guy like Penny who does have immense upside, it's a pretty good bet to take. Now, if he falls into the 6th round, that's basically must draft territory, but even if his ADP didn't fall anymore, we're just letting you guys know it's a good deal. Now, just because we said it's a good deal doesn't mean that this pick has no risk and it's a slam dunk and you're getting a solid player. There's some valid concerns with him. He has a poor offensive line and a bad defense. He very well may have a Joe Mixon type season, or even worse, he could lose his job to Chris Carson. We already know the game scripts aren't going to be great, so there are obviously red flags. But with Penny, you do know that you're going to get a player who is going to get his work in the receiving game, so he's going to have somewhat of a floor, and the draft capital that this team invested in him is going to guarantee him first crack at the starting job. So overall, based on his ADP, he's a great target. Let's just hope he falls a little bit more so we can get an even better deal. Moving on, we have Royce Freeman, and Freeman is quite possibly one of my favorite picks out of all the rookie running backs in this range. So first off, he's a big-bodied rusher. He's on a team that has a strong defense and what should be an improved offense under Case Keenum. The only problem with taking Freeman though is if you look at your draft board after you finish the draft and you see Freeman there, oftentimes you feel like you lack some overall upside, because most people don't see Freeman as such a slam dunk, and it's shown in his ADP. But if you really break it down, Freeman is probably one of the safer picks, at least safer than most people give him credit for. Right now he's going as the RB26, as the 8th pick in the 5th round, which as it stands today, that's a decent value. His only competition for targets or touches is Devontae Booker, who we all know isn't a good rusher. He has a career yards per carry average of 3.6. Horrible. And for those of you who are chopping yards per carry up to just being a product of the environment and the product of the team, just keep in mind that CJ Anderson, who everybody believes is basically done and he sucks, Anderson was able to average 4 yards per carry in the past 2 seasons, while Devontae Booker was averaging that 3.6. Okay, so Booker's only real skill that I could see this team featuring him in is maybe in the passing game. So there are some legitimate concerns for Freeman, at least in the receiving game. But if you really compare their skills side by side in that aspect, it's not like Booker is light years ahead of Freeman anyways. So it shouldn't be a reason to really deter you too much of him. I mean, we're talking about guys in the 5th round. Everyone has question marks. And when we're talking about Freeman, just know that he has had a ton of work in college, which for most people it can be concerning just because of the amount of tread that he has left on the tires. So in your dynasty leagues, you might want to take that into consideration. Maybe he reaches his peak a little bit sooner, or maybe he reaches his decline a little bit faster. The running back position itself is the easiest to transition from when it comes to moving from college to the NFL level, and that's exactly why we see so many rookie running backs make a big impact in year one. So someone like Freeman, who has had a bunch of carries, who is really experienced on the ground, maybe has those better instincts, we're going to see someone like him transition a lot easier than someone who played as more of a change of pace role and really only started for maybe 1 year. But if we're breaking down Freeman and what we expect from him this year, we definitely could see him leading this team in touches, and we think it's a really likely scenario. We don't believe in Booker whatsoever. We have to draft him expecting his upside to be capped and expecting a scenario where Booker does play more of the pass catching role in this offense. But regardless, similar to Darius Geis, he's on a team where he can can be the solid first and down running back and also the goal line back. And unlike Washington, the Broncos actually have a good defense, so the game scripts may actually be better for him than they are for Geis. Now, Geis is clearly the better rusher of the two, so you always want to side with the talent, but there are a lot of things to like about Freeman. So he's a fine value. We aren't really reaching on him, but we have him ranked right where his ADP is going. So he's not the type of player that needs to fall in order for us to take him, but if he does, that makes him a great deal. Now, the last player on this list, which I'm sure you all are really interested to hear about, and that's Sony Michel. Now, Michel, heading into this season, had arguably the most upside out of any rookie rusher not named Saquon Barkley. For one, he's a strong pass catching back on a team that loves to pass to the running back position. For two, he's also on a team that has one of the best offenses in the league year over year, so he's going to be in a position to score and score quite often. And three, the Patriots invested a first round draft pick into him, shocking the world. So what does that tell you? They see a role for him to be an immediate producer, and if they didn't think he could have a really good fit on this team, they wouldn't have invested such high draft capital in him. They would have gotten one of the guys in the later rounds. Remember, this was a really strong running back draft class. That was then, and this is now, and as of now, he got some big issues. He just had a knee procedure done. Word is he is still expected to be available to start the season. Regardless though, if he's available or not to start the season, it would be absolutely stupid not to drop him in the rankings at this point. He's missing valuable reps, and if we're being quite honest, he wasn't really having a great training camp to begin with. And those fumbling issues that he saw in college, he's been fumbling in camp too. And for a team that operates like a well-oiled machine like the Patriots, they're not going to put up with it, and his fumbling issues are going to be his quickest way to the bench. The Patriots themselves though, they have a lot of rushers that can do exactly what Sony does, which is catch passes out of the backfield and perform well in space. Now, the only real difference is Sony does have next level ability when it comes to the big play potential. That area is definitely unmatched, but when it comes to players that have great hands, you already have someone like Rex Burkhead, who they opted to use in red zone packages a lot last season. And then they also have James White, who we always see flashes of from time to time, but really hasn't put it together consistently week over week. We didn't really bump up White because of this news, but Burkhead himself has definitely risen in our rankings. But this breakdown's about Sony, and when it comes to Sony, he's dropping, and there is a spot in drafts where Sony is going to start to become an excellent value. Drafting him though, you have to be well aware that you're going to sit him, so even if he is going to be ready week one, there's just no way in hell you can just expect to start him then. But right now he's coming in as the first pick in the 6th round and has fallen over 12 spots in 10 days. That's right, this guy's falling over a pick a day. That's something you can expect to continue as we head into the preseason and the hype train starts to increase for some of these other guys. And what's going to happen to Sony? He's going to be on the sidelines because he just had this procedure and he's not going to be playing in preseason. So all that adds up to him more than likely falling even more. And if he does, he's going to hit that stage in the draft where the only running backs on the board are like Tariq Cohen, Tevin Coleman, Marlon Mack, or Marshawn Lynch. And there's no way you can even compare those types of players, or at least the upside, to someone like Sony Michel. So if he does start falling into the late 6th or even the 7th round, you have to start thinking about taking him, because you already have your running backs at that position to start the season, so you can just stash Sony and sit on him for a few weeks. And once he's healthy and once you see what his involvement in the offense is, that's when you put him in and hope that all the upside pans out. Alright everybody, that's going to do it for this video. We really hoped you enjoyed. If you did enjoy this video, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.